So as Donald Trump heads to trial, I'm reminded of something I once heard Mike Tyson say. He said, whenever a fighter gets knocked down, they do one of two things. They either run away scared or they come out swinging. And Donald Trump has absolutely came out swinging for the fences. He's just going for it and saying anything he can think of off the top of his head. Sometimes it's incoherent. Sometimes it's absolute lunacy, but he's not holding back. And my good buddy D Knight is here to break it down for you. Y'all take a look.
Is he crazy? Really? Just this week it was reported that an illegal and you just look at this, what's happening.
Yes, the illegal Atlanthans. And this is D Knight from the Pardon the Insurrection podcast, joining you from Nashville, courtesy of none other than Tennessee Brando. Let's show that man some love. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Let's help him get to 200,000 followers. We can absolutely make that happen, and he deserves it. And that was Trump from his rally in Pennsylvania this weekend, where he is clearly in rare form as he proceeds to undergo the arduous task of facing the first criminal trial of a former president of the United States in American history. And he is, well, set to do his best. Don't know what his best might bring him, given that over the course of the past couple of weeks, he's been watching the value of his Truth Social website tank. It's reached half its peak value over the last couple of weeks here. It's also watching his former CFO, Alan Weisselberg, head off to his second stint in Rikers after pleading guilty. You can't make this up. Pleading guilty to perjury in the middle of the civil fraud trial as Trump's key witness there. That was something. Also down in Florida, his other lawyer, Evan Corcoran, who's been crime fraud accepted out of the classified documents case and is set to become a witness against him. He has recently left the Trump legal team. And of course, with this criminal trial bearing down upon him, Trump is obviously not handling it very well. But let's get to more clips from the rally this weekend, where he is on an all-time tear of saying the most insane shit you ever seen.
From now, the entire world will witness the commencement of the very first Biden trial. They're all Biden trials. You know that, right? And I'm proud to do it for you. Have a good time watching. Have a good time watching. On Monday in New York City, I will be forced to sit fully gagged. I'm not allowed to talk. Can you believe it? They want to take away my constitutional right to talk. I have a crooked judge. This has never happened before, by the way. You do know that, right? Fully gagged before a highly conflicted and corrupt judge who suffers from TDS. Does anyone know what TDS is? Correct. Trump derangement syndrome.
I believe the Trump derangement syndrome is an affliction that affects millions of Americans all across the country who continue to vote for this man, regardless of the number of times he continues to say insane shit like that, as though he's somehow been completely gagged, even though he's standing there talking to you on a national broadcast. Can't make that up. And of course, over the weekend, he actually did violate his gag order by attacking one of the witnesses in the case, Michael Cohen. But that aside, the last time he's been fully gagged was probably those 2 or 3 minutes that he was engaged in unscrupulous activity with said porn star in this particular trial. Let's get to the next clip.
What Bragg? That's Alvin Bragg. He's a Soros-appointed prosecutor.
Ah, yes, the Jewish billionaire that you claim is largely responsible for orchestrating a global conspiracy against you in the United States, even though upon the initial offering of stock options in your company, that made you worth more, at least on paper, than George Soros was. So I guess now we can accuse you of orchestrating global conspiracies against the United States, or does that accusation only work when you're being anti-Semitic? I don't know, but let's get to the next clip.
I did nothing wrong from day one. I did nothing. Yet Russia, yet Ukraine, yet every hoax imaginable. With all of the things they did, with millions of pages of study, they found nothing, which makes me perhaps the most honest guy almost in the world, I think. They found nothing.
Well, if a quick trial followed by a quick execution is the legal standard that Trump would like to adopt for the weed man, Perhaps he would be willing to adopt that same legal standard for a person who is, I don't know, been credibly accused of interfering in an election, has laundered money through his real estate company, has attempted to end United States democracy by violently stopping the peaceful transfer of power from one president to another, and, oh, by the way, stole boxes of classified information on his way out of office, violating the Espionage Act. Or perhaps he's just not self-aware enough to look in a forking mirror, one or the other. But given that he said he's willing to testify at this trial over the course of the last couple of days, has he perhaps considered what that testimony may look like, and do you believe that he is prepared to do so?
This is a magazine that I've never read, but probably doesn't like Trump. Left wing is to put...
Well, who among us hasn't read a pro-Trump magazine? They're all pro-Trump. They have MAGA in the name.
Turn it around fast. Under Biden, U.S. Steel is being, so think of this, United States Steel Company, one of the great companies of the world 50 years ago, is being sold to Japan. Congratulations, Japan.
However, will America survive without the SEALs? Someone think of the SEALs.
While we struggle with wind, where's the wind? You know the other problem? We can't get the windmills. You know why? They're made in China. China says, don't worry about America. We'll give them. But wind doesn't work anyway. It's too expensive. It doesn't work. Kills all your birds. If you'd like to see a nice bird cemetery, walk under a windmill sometime. You'll see more.
Ah, yes, the poor birds who have been suffering from death by wind for millions of years. However will they survive as a species?
I will not give one penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate.
Ah, yes, the good old vaccine mandate that every school in America has. Otherwise, there'd be massive outbreaks of things like measles and polio. Who wants to go back to 1950? Although maybe that's what he means when he says we're going to make America great again. That's the era he's referring to when everyone was dying of easily preventable diseases.
Where our union was saved by the immortal heroes at Gettysburg. Gettysburg, what an unbelievable battle that was. The Battle of Gettysburg, what an unbelievable, I mean, it was so much and so interesting and so vicious and horrible and so beautiful in so many different ways. It represented such a big portion of the success of this country. Gettysburg, wow. I go to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania to look and to watch. And the statement of Robert E. Lee, who's no longer in favor. Did you ever notice that? No longer in favor. Never fight uphill, me boys. Never fight uphill. They were fighting uphill. He said, wow, that was a big mistake. He lost his great general. And they were fighting. Never fight uphill, me boys. But it was too late.
The Battle of Gettysburg, where more Americans died during that battle than any other single conflict in the Civil War. So many beautiful things about that, I guess. Who do you think Trump was rooting for during the Civil War? Could it perhaps be General Robert E. Lee, who he seems to be so thoroughly disappointed with, given that he's fallen out of favor? I can only wonder. But, you know, given that he's been indicted here for being a traitor to the United States, one would assume that, well, he wouldn't want to support other traitors to the United States, because that could possibly make him look even more guilty than he seems.
And just 4 years ago was the exact opposite. We were the most respected country in the world. We were the most respected that we were ever respected. We were never more respected than we were 4 years ago.
We were the most respected that we were ever respected. It's like, since President Biden's return to the White House, America is more respected than at any time during the Trump administration. But I do remember a number of times that foreign leaders were laughing at the United States.
World leaders caught on camera laughing about President Trump. Several world leaders mocking President Trump.
They're laughing at him.
My administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. Didn't expect that reaction, but that's okay.
World leaders mocking and ridiculing him for being completely off balance.
Allies are deeply worried about him. They say he's becoming increasingly isolated. Something is very wrong.
The world sees Trump for what he is: insincere, ill-informed, corrupt, dangerously incompetent, and incapable, in my view, of world leadership. And if we give Donald Trump 4 more years, we'll have a great deal of difficulty, if ever, being able to recover America's standing in the world and our capacity to bring nations together.
But in talking to his supporters, he was correct about one thing.
Believe that, because we're ready to be a failed nation. We're a failed nation right now.
Because if they're willing to re-elect a man who could be credibly argued to be setting up an insanity defense in his criminal trial, America will become a failed country. Please don't subject us to that. And if you enjoyed this content, make sure you give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and please leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you have the opportunity, you can give me a follow on my personal podcast, Pardon the Insurrection, available now on YouTube and everywhere that podcasts are found.
Folks, I have a feeling as the year progresses, it's only going to get worse, but I want to thank my good buddy D Knight for his patience and his ability to sit through that and break it down for you, because sometimes those clips are painful to watch. I'll be honest with you. You see it and you say to yourself, how did we let ourselves get here as a country? How did we ever let this man near an office, and why is he ever being considered for one again? But we're going to keep calling it out. We're going to keep speaking truth to power and doing the best that we can, because at this point in the game, that's all we can do.